The next 2 weeks, from June 15th to June 26th, what happens if every single thing we thought we knew about the current chaos in Port Charles is nothing more than a giant, elaborate smokescreen? Guys, I don't think we're paying attention to what comes next. We are all so caught up in the immediate drama, the missing persons, and the daily clashes. But what if this moment becomes the beginning of something much bigger? What if the very foundation of this city is about to be ripped apart by an invisible hand? We need to stop looking at the symptoms and start looking at the disease. If you look closely at the board right now, the pieces are moving in ways that do not make sense unless there is a grand master pulling the strings from the shadows. I am talking about a complete paradigm shift for General Hospital. The story could be heading toward a total reset of the power dynamics we have known for decades. The legacy families think they are fighting their own isolated battles, but they are actually standing on a massive landmine that is ticking down to zero. Let us quickly set the current board so we know exactly where our players are standing. Right now, Nina is grilling Cassius, believing he is hiding something massive behind his fake persona. Valentin is risking his own freedom to reach out to a mysterious contact known only as Z, hoping to find a way out of this mess. Carly has infiltrated Windermere, stumbling upon a secret room filled with highly classified dossiers on every major player in town. Meanwhile, Sunny is getting chilling warnings from Rick about an impending collapse, Brooklyn and Willow are caught in a vicious setup over a driver, and Britt is running for her life with Rocco, who is clutching a digital drive full of explosive secrets. This is the landscape. Liesel is missing, Sidwell is setting traps, and everyone is pointing fingers at each other. But this is just the setup. The real story isn't about who kidnapped Liesel or who framed Willow. The real story is about the unseen architect who built this maze. The current situation is merely a distraction, a brilliant sleight of hand designed to keep the most dangerous people in Port Charles looking the wrong way while the real threat approaches. So, let us map out the first future. What if Z decides to weaponize the information Carly found and the data Rocco is holding? This could lead to the ultimate syndicate takeover of Port Charles. Think about it. Carly saw files detailing years of surveillance on the most powerful families. Rocco has the digital backup. If Z leaks this information strategically, who benefits? The answer is simple. Z and whatever shadow organization they represent. They could systematically blackmail every politician, police commissioner, and mob boss in the state. Who is in danger in this scenario? Absolutely everyone. Sunny has built an empire on loyalty and fear, but what happens when his lieutenants realize all their secrets are exposed? His organization wouldn't be taken down by a rival mob. It would implode from within. The Quartermains could face catastrophic financial ruin if corporate espionage and illegal backroom deals are brought to light. The bigger consequence may be that the entire infrastructure of Port Charles is dismantled overnight, leaving Z to swoop in and buy the city for pennies on the dollar. In this path, Britt and Rocco become the most crucial pieces on the board. They aren't just running from thugs. They are running from an intelligence network that spans the globe. Rocco doesn't just have a flash drive, he has the nuclear launch codes for the social and economic destruction of his own family. If this future plays out, we are looking at a prolonged war where the legacy families are stripped of their wealth and power, forced to fight an enemy they cannot even see. Every secret ever buried in Port Charles would become a bullet fired directly at the people who buried it. But let us pivot to a completely different timeline, the second future. What if the key to all of this isn't the destruction of Port Charles, but the redemption of its most unlikely resident? I am talking about Cassius. Nina is already starting to suspect that Cassius is tied to Victor Cassidy's old dark dealings rather than just playing a twisted game. What if Cassius is actually the ultimate undercover operative, the only man who has been trying to stop Z all along? If that happens, it changes the entire DNA of the storyline. Cassius reveals that Liesel's disappearance, his own arrival, and even Sidwell's actions are part of a massive contingency plan that he has been trying to sabotage from the inside. He isn't the villain. He is the shield. The story could be heading toward a heartbreaking sacrifice where Cassius has to burn his own cover and potentially his own life to save a city that hates him. Nina would have to grapple with the fact that the man she has been interrogating is actually a hero operating in the deepest shadows. This future completely alters the alliances. Sunny, Valentine, and Carly would have to swallow their pride and trust a man they despise. Valentine's discovery that Z is manipulating Sidwell aligns perfectly with Cassius's secret mission. They would realize that Sidwell is nothing but a pawn, a noisy distraction meant to draw Sunny's fire while Z maneuvers into position. In this scenario, Port Charles survives, but only because the legacy families learn to follow the lead of the ultimate outsider. It would be a story of redemption, sacrifice, and the heavy toll of fighting a war no one else knows is happening. Now, let us look at the third future, the absolute wild card. What if Z never intends to attack Port Charles directly? What if the plan is an internal civil war? Look at the situation between Brooklyn and Willow. Chase is already piecing together that their clash over the driver was perfectly orchestrated by a third party. The evidence was too flawless, the timing too convenient. There's a chance that Z is simply planting seeds of paranoia and letting the families tear themselves apart. In this unpredictable path, the files Carly found and the drive Rocco holds aren't meant for blackmail. They are meant to be accidentally discovered by the worst possible people. Imagine if Sunny finds out a secret Valentine has been keeping, or if Michael discovers something devastating about Dante. The legacy families would go to war with each other. Z wouldn't need an army. They would just sit back and watch Port Charles burn itself to the ground. It is psychological warfare at its finest, turning allies into bitter enemies through perfectly timed revelations. If you ask me, we need to look at the psychological profiles of our characters to see where this is really going. I keep coming back to the idea that the first future, combined with the Cassius redemption arc, is the path that feels most likely. The writers are meticulously laying down breadcrumbs that point to a massive, systemic threat. The fact that Rick is warning Sunny about an entity that wants to destroy the influential families tells me that this is bigger than mob violence. My personal take? Z is someone we already know. Someone deeply embedded in the history of Port Charles, who has been quietly collecting grievances for decades. The revelation that Sidwell is just a middleman is the smoking gun. It proves that the real villain operates with surgical precision, not brute force. I believe Cassius will be the one to finally unmask Z, but not before the legacy families are pushed to the absolute brink of destruction. They will have to lose almost everything before they realize they are fighting on the same side. But let us not stop there. If this scenario unfolds, what happens next may be the most fascinating era of General Hospital we have ever seen. If Z succeeds in even a fraction of this plan, the power vacuum will be monumental. We are talking about a totally fractured Port Charles where the old rules no longer apply. Sunny's territory would be up for grabs, the Quartermain boardroom would be a war zone, and the police department would be scrambling to maintain order in a city that has lost its foundation. Looking ahead, the next shockwave isn't just about defeating Z. It is about what these families become in the aftermath. Will Sunny and Valentine maintain their uneasy truce, or will they turn on each other the second the mutual threat is neutralized? Will Carly use the secret she found in Windermere to rebuild her own power base, becoming the very thing she was fighting against? The mystery of Z might be solved, but the scars they leave behind will birth a whole new generation of heroes and villains. The future of Port Charles is wide open, and it is going to be incredibly dangerous.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.